Yeah, thank you very much for such a nice introduction. In fact, when I heard the entire introduction, I was not aware what I did in my last 25 years, but it's a good introduction. But the people who are on the screen, which is a much more experience and expertise than I can think about. The people right now on the screen, let me introduce Mr. Atul Goel, who is the CTO and head Indian Glycos Limited, Mr. Parthasur, who is the technology head in Haldia Petrochemical, Mr. Vivek Gupta, who is the joint VP in TCM Sriram Limited, Mr. Sheikh Faraz, who is the DGM in Indian Oil Corporation Limited into IS department, which is called as the IT department, Mr. Dr. Pratap Nair, who is the president and CEO of the Engineer Technology Limited. Before I go to the direct question and answer with these experts or stalwart into industry, let me help you to understand the holistic approach need of the hour. But if you look at the current scenario of the digitization, if you go back the 5 years or 3 years back, everybody was thinking about that. Can I go into the digital journey? Can I go into this way? Is digital journey is going to successful? Whether I'm doing the right thing, what my competition is doing, whether what I did, whether I will get the ROI, what will be the expectation and management. All those questions now today becomes irrelevant. The reason behind that, everybody from government to the common person, let me be a digital India to the QR code of BHIM application. In day-to-day life, everybody accepts that digitization is the way of life. So with this, I just wanted to go with the what is current trend, what industry face the challenge, how industry going to overcome this challenge, and how the next path for the industry. So I just wanted to start our discussion with the Atul from the India Glycos Limited. Atul, I just wanted to ask you a very simple
Just a
question
minute.
from.
Just a minute. There is a small presentation by Mr. Nair, Dr. Nair.
Okay, not a problem. So
Yeah.
before I go into that question and answer session, let me ask Pratap to share his screen and give the small presentation on the subject.
Okay, thank you, Ajay. Let me.
Yeah, we can see here the presentation.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just take you through a very brief presentation, starting with in our, at least in the process industry, there's been no dearth of data. If you look at it, there's been an abundance of data that has been available to us for the last maybe 2-3 decades. Only thing is, about 10% of this data is being utilized. And today, with this whole computing, communication, data storage increases and at much lower costs, this is what we are talking about. All the digitalization technologies that have been spawned off, and that has enabled us to utilize a lot more of this data. And however, to utilize these technologies and data, there are certain engineering aspects, very specialized engineering, whether it's data engineering, decision engineering, analytics. And that is really what ultimately provides the augmented intelligence to give the data-driven decisions and actions, helping improve productivity, sustainability, and so on. So this is the whole area of what I call applied AI. So technology tools, developing technology tools is one thing, but applying it, there's a whole different field called applied AI, which is really what we have found. Today we've implemented over the last 5 years several applied AI solutions for refiners, several petrochemical plants, midstream pipelines. And I would like to share my experiences with you. So essentially what we do is most of our work is focused around manufacturing and supply chain. So we rely heavily on the data. And of course, the key place to start is defining the business problem to address what objectives do we have. This is often missed, and we may get into more of that when we go into discussions. And what this does ultimately is the applied AI solution allows various kinds of analytics, all the way from diagnostic to prescriptive. And, that helps implement the smart decisions, results are tracked, There's auto learning, auto adaptive, auto sustaining. That's the whole idea of the applied AI. Allows what ifs and optimization. Then there are other aspects with IoT, remote specialists can really work from anywhere and provide a lot of the types of analysis that is required. And end of the day, it's really the value added that is the key. There are a lot of technology options. I don't intend you to read any of this, but the fact is there are a plethora of technology options available today, whether it's for data handling, analysis, or whatever. But the key is the synthesis of all this technology. So you have a lot of the digital era technology tools and techniques, data platforms, cloud computing, connectors, AI, ML, and so the key is really pulling all that together and synthesizing it and then configuring it, particularly in manufacturing, unlike in some of the earlier AI applications in social media and so on, where you could build one application and it could be used over, maybe 1,000 use cases. Here, each use case, there's a certain high level of customization that is required. However, the tools remain common and, maybe 70-75% base work can be, there will be commonality. At the end of the day, business and a business opportunity or need has to be addressed. So key part, what I've called as DEEP, which is Decision Excellence Engineering, is the glue to kind of pulling all this together, different technology aspects. And that is really what AI is about. Often, you hear AI and ML being used, machine learning being used interchangeably. Machine learning is a subset. It's one of the pieces. But to have an end-to-end solution, at the end of the day, you can have the greatest models, but if the data connector breaks down, everything breaks down, right? So everything in that chain really has to work and be tested and for robustness and validation and so on. So that is a whole area of what I call applied AI engineering. One part of that, even in the model building, there's several steps which people often, just take it for granted and say that it's, they think that there's a plug and play of these technologies, but that's far from the truth. We've learned this from our clients who've had come to us after several failures, and we've also gone through some. So these are the learnings. So at the end of the day, what is the end result? You have dashboards for various levels of management, giving insights, transforming the data. So here's an example, 360-degree augmented intelligence dashboard, providing various different aspects, showing KPIs, key furnace run length parameters, alerts, and there have been tremendous benefits realized from this. This was essentially for a VCM plant. Another example where we actually implemented this on one delayed coker, and now it's being put across several delayed cokers of a major refinery in the US, where it was reported by the client itself that there's about 11 million per annum that they really got out of this. And it comes through various sources. Part of it could be automated. Part of it comes through better insights, faster decision making. So those are all the various ways in which the benefits come in. Here's another example from an ethylene plant where it was done across 8 ethylene facilities to start with in a Middle East facility. They reported about 24 million per annum, and now it's being scaled across 13 different petrochemical facilities as we speak. So I've given some of the areas from which the whole solution provided benefits and even blown out. But in the interest of time, I may not go into details. But essentially, it comes from savings in fuel, savings in energy, better productivity, efficiencies, and so on. This was an example in a midstream where this was one of our early applications where again, they did it across 40 sites and profitably increased by about 15% in the first year and continued. So that's in a nutshell, really what I wanted to share. before we can, get started on the.
Pratap, in
Yes.
fact, you made sure my first question should go on to the AI ML rather than going here and there. So you are the first brave soul for me who will answer the very interesting question which people are expecting, and after that many more. So I just wanted to ask that we often read that not all AI ML deployment in the manufacturing have succeeded at either the POC concept stage or have not scaled even upon succeeding to the POC stage. Do you have any insight to share on this? Because I saw two examples. One is 11 million saving and the other is 24.7. So how we are going to use the AIML in manufacturing? Or this is one of the kind. So there should be some scalable. So what is your point of view in that?
Yeah, that's a very, very pertinent question, Ajay. Two of our clients actually, they came to us. One came after two, failures or false starts, and another three. And so, we did an analysis when we started doing the work with them as to what caused those failures. Of course, that was post our succeeding with with the POC, and then now we're doing the scaling with them as we speak. What the feedback we got from them was that initially when they started, they just went with the impression that the technology tools that are available are just plug and play. It's far from what it is today. Maybe 10 years down the road there'll be enough intelligence that's built into systems where you could get into plug and play, but it's really not there today. So this whole applied AI engineering piece is very critical, and often it's overlooked, and it's said, oh, it's something easy that can be done. And that's the first pitfall. So that was one of the things that very clearly and resoundingly came from both these fairly large-sized companies. The other is, like I said, a lot of in the manufacturing space, a lot of these applied AI techniques, there is a fair amount of customization based on the use case. And so identifying what you're going to solve, what is the problem you're going to solve, instead of going, hey, I've got all these tools, now this is a hammer, let me go look for a nail. That approach did not really work, because why it failed was they were not getting results, what they expected. So if you don't want to do all this heavy lifting and great math to answer the wrong questions, you want the right questions answered at the end of the day. So that is the other thing, defining what is it that you're really trying to achieve. Are you already solving it with what you've already got? Then there's no point, reinventing the wheel. You have to do something where it is going to definitely add value. It's going to help you do something faster. It's going to help you solve something that you're not able to solve. So that was the second thing. And the overlooking of the importance of data and being able to handle the data, where a lot of domain expertise is required in our field. Where, like I said earlier, if the data breaks, everything else fails. I mean, you can have the best models, you can have the best technologies in the world, but that flow has to be there. So choosing the right data, curating the right data, validating it, making sure that it's robust enough. These are all key things which often get overlooked. And that was what we saw as the cause of the failures, at least with the clients we work with.
In fact, what I understood from that, even though we are picking up only 10% of data and we are creating a miracle, so 90% data is still left over to create some more miracle. But to be very honest, that is the two steps ahead which you are thinking, and is that good that the industry experts as Talbot, like all on this session, can help me to understand, and my audience, that where are we in terms of digitization. Directly, I will go to a different personality altogether. Atul, don't require any introduction, but he is one of the key pivot into the Indian glycol as system, that how they go into the digital journey. So I just wanted to ask to Atul, what was the trigger which leads to your digital journey? and how you conceptualize that, because that is one of the starting point for Indian glycol. So can you help me to understand that how you conceptualize your entire digital journey?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much, Ajay. And I'll certainly talk about our journey, and that will be important because no, otherwise just talking about what's the art of the possible really doesn't help. But I just want to come out with these broad three themes, which are important and which are critical for any business. So one is that no, do you have visibility around your operations? So how well you are operating? Because in most organizations, even today, if you see, most organizations would have some or the other systems of record. So they may have some SAP, some other Oracle, somebody may be using some other application. All of these systems of records, these transactional systems are actually capturing data in retrospect. So some event, some activity happens on the shop floor, and then that data in a reconciled manner gets captured or updated in these transaction systems. And to add to the misery, then you also have analytic systems which sits on top of these transaction systems. And by the time analytics output comes out, it's already maybe a shift. You have already crossed, that shift is over, or that day is over, and or sometimes even a month may get over in some stage. So what happens is, no, you do not have actionable insights on what's going on at this moment. And in these times, no, I can tell you the biggest problem is not about technology. The biggest problem currently is around having the right personnel, the right skilled personnel. Individuals who would have set up the plant 30, 40 years back, like we are in existence for the last 35, 40 years. Even we have seen people who had set up the plants have actually either got superannuated or are on the verge of superannuation. So we are losing talent there. So there is an immediate contingent need that we kind of capture their excellence, their knowledge, their wisdom, and automate to the extent possible. Not everything can get replaced with AI ML, but certainly much of the analytics which is being done on a day-to-day basis, that is possible to get automated. What we also did within our enterprise and in one of our locations is, so we set up a complete connected factory setup, okay, which we used it as it's like a control tower, wherein sitting in on one system, you can have a complete, holistic, transparent view of the entire operations. How well is the machine running? And if there are any KPIs, of course, there are KPIs associated to any equipment. It could be a electrical setup, it could be a turbine, or it could be a boiler setup, or it could be any continuous or discrete manufacturing subunit. Each one of them have their own KPIs. So how well you are able to track those KPIs real time, all that is available at a click. Earlier, gathering data itself was a nightmare, and so much effort, time was going into just collating data. So that was one. Second is, what we also have seen is from a sustainability standpoint, particularly in chemicals, petrochemicals, and allied industries, sustainability related topics and discussions are becoming more and more intense and pointed, which means that no, you just can't talk about it. You just can't talk about, you can't just have a PPT. So you need to have action on the ground. How do you do that? So how are you monitoring your losses? How are you monitoring fugitive emissions, either through the liquid stream or in the gas form? How are you doing that? And then what pointed solutions you are deploying, and then pre and post, how things have improved. There has to be a method to the whole system. It just can't be wishful. So I think that the entire focus is around building a transparent set of operations. So I also want to highlight that we recently also did one project around using RFID for tracking and tracing material movement, manpower movement, personnel movement, and also vehicular traffic movement. What we realized when we were conceptualizing the project was that much of our arterial roads, the connectivity, which is there for plant movements inside, they were all choked with some haphazard placement of vehicles. And so we kind of realized that so much of real estate which we have bought, we've we've kind of set it up, is actually getting wasted by placement of these trucks or tankers in a haphazard manner. It's not that they don't have a parking place, but these guys would find place and park it anywhere. So there we realize that no, we have some method there as well. So we are now working on basically geofencing different parking slots for different areas. Suppose it is coal unloading or some other fuel unloading loading area or some raw material loading unloading area. Each one is geofenced, and then the immediate once the vehicle enters either for loading or unloading, we have time slots that within this time it should be placed in the specific zone. If not, then there is a person who would track that vehicle. So it's like no, you have to basically systematize operations so that the turnaround time and all that. Somebody may say, what value does it do? But I'll tell you, every if you ask the logistic provider, service provider, they will bake in their cost. If you were to hold vehicles and if the turnaround time is far higher than the optimal numbers, they will bake that in the cost itself. Nobody pays from their nose or pocket. No, it will all be charged to you. So if you were to able to track movement within your setup and then also outside, all that adds up, and then you can also it will also add to your the theme around green. No, that you are using less fuel, okay, less fugitive emissions and environmental pollution issues get minimized to that effect. All that is there. So I just want to briefly tell you that no, today technology is not just it doesn't. It's not just wishful. Today, as we progress, it's actually directly impacting your profitability and also the possibility to increase or achieve higher top line. So that's the broad theme.
So Atul, the overall message which you want to pass, that you are trying to convert your all ESG approach into the digitization. You are looking at the environment, you are looking at the social aspect, you are looking at the governance of your own business. So thank you very much, Atul, that answering it such a briefly. Now I just wanted to, I will go to Mr. Parthasur on the next question. Is that because he came from the Haldia petrochemical and the typical petrochemical industry, that how should a petrochemical companies do in terms of assessing and choosing a digital transformation approach that best suits from you? Because you look at the Atul's answer, they find their own way because they come from the glycol industry, which is their basic industry. Now the petrochemical industry is a little different from typical chemical industry. Just I can say a little complex side also. So how their approach in terms of assessing and choosing a digital transformation? Partha.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all my panelists. It's my pleasure to be part of this esteemed panel, and I am privileged to be part of this program. And some of my panelists are the co-members that once or twice I have been with them. So it gives me another kind of familiarization and an advantage when speaking and talking on the same platform. So when from petrochemical perspective, see, the digital transformation has multiple dimensions to it. First and foremost is the mindset. So mindset, when I say mindset, it is the mindset of the leadership that important. And being a traditional and different, having the composition of the employees of different brackets, age brackets, so you tend to find a lot of difficulties at the initial stage. So the task that we adopted initially was to run through a kind of familiarization, in a sense, what the digital transformation is all about, how they intend to see, what are the different parameters, and what it is basically. So when you run in a business where these things were not there and you want to jump on it, though we have been leveraged to have all the traditional, the IT infrastructure, starting from, say, your basic PLC or SCADA. It was the ERP system was running for years, but there was a missing link which was not there, is the MES. So this is one point of, the struggle we started facing. What it is that, what it is going to do, how it is going to, help us out, and you are going to put a lot of investment upfront, because the DCS vendors, they don't allow you to, to extract the basic database. So we took a holistic plan where the basic backbone was created. I mean, across the different, there are multiple units. You need to put on the data, pull out the basic infrastructure that you started. Once that is done, so you are basically targeting to collate and trying to build a system of truth. One source of truth, that's fundamental. And while doing that, you have different kind of parameters, whether it's analog, digital, different varieties, at what sequences should be done, up to what level of penetration you will be doing. These are all evolved in the process. The whole group of people that work together to arrive at this. Once that is done, then it comes on the see, as initially I was trying to tell you that the challenge was in the mindset. The newer generations, they are very flexible in terms of adopting this. So they were given the forehand, and they became the kind of game changer. They came in. So that process made us much more easier to roll out our basic program. Then we took out the company-wide as a digital transformation program, held workshops. A lot of ideas came from there. Now came in the process of the COVID, where all of us know. So that was given us the additional impetus to go into the fundamentals of digitalization and went for implementing the easiest areas like safety, gate first system, all these one after the other. So my suggestions here would be like, go module by module and build the lower level first, then go into the upper bracket. So you have different. So before I go into the higher level, I mean, it's very difficult to do bring visibility in a manner which a process plant like a petrochemicals, what Mr. Dr. Pratap Nair was explaining. I hail that basic background of cracker, So it's a very, very complex. So bringing that kind of visibility in the process area is very, very difficult. So the different aspect of it, we started, building KPIs, bring the reports on a common platform. These took our enormous point of time. So now we are in a very clear-cut stage of moving the next ladder. We have formalized, we have built the basic reporting structure, KPI, dashboards across the complex. And not only manufacturing, we have gone out of manufacturing now. But be it safety, the process-led digital interventions, many operations that runs, the process safety. Now we have gone into the next tier of, from production level to the EBITDA level of realization. We can say now we can calculate our EBITDA on daily basis. That, I mean, in a sense that it has been our journey. It took almost more than 3 years to reach to that level. I think that gives a kind of, approach that we took in Haldia Petrochemicals.
Yeah. So far, it's a good that you also touched the two very interesting thing. One thing is that step-by-step approach, and another which is very beautifully you touched that most of our generation, because except for us, rest all is the 50 plus on this call. So I think that you touched upon that subject also, that we should be related to this industry. So now from Haldia Petrochemical is the one complex. Now I will increase the complexity also, and I wanted to shift it to Farad, because this gentleman is spending his last 3-4 years to solve this problem. So it's a very interesting question to Faraz, who deals the Indian Oil Corporation Limited all digitization program. So looking at the IOCL scale, so can you help us to understand your digitization journey in last 3 years? I can understand Parth's digitization journey starts with one place or all, but your scale of problem will be much more higher. 9 refineries, one petrochemical complex, 10 departments, thousands of pressure, and people look at Indian Oil as a anchor ship, so where people can think if the Indian Oil performs anything, so we can travel. So I just wanted to understand how you face these challenges over last 3 years. Parag.
Thanks, Ajay. Good afternoon, fellow panelists and others out there. Ajay gave a brief idea about the scale of Indian Oil. Let me answer a bit and say that we
Parag, can you be loud, please?
Closer? Can you come a little closer?
Yeah. So we refine 32% of India's oil today. We've got 15,000 kilometer long pipeline network on gas and crude oil, and we have 50,000 touch points in marketing with the end customers. Now, operating at such a scale, digitalization is not a luxury; it's a necessity. When we went ahead with digitalization journey, the fellow panelists pointed out, management buy-in something is very important. If we don't have the management buy-in for such a huge initiative, nothing moves. So we started this journey somewhere in 2017, where we started identifying the gaps that are there in the whole digitalization initiatives of Indian Oil. We have been at the forefront of technology ever since we started our journey somewhere in 1992. We have had the best of technology. Most of them came in bits and pieces. There was a need for integration. There were certain pieces that were missing. So we started them by identifying the foremost key areas where we can work on these gaps. And then we formed a very strategic group called Strategic Information Systems that was headed by the executive director, and it reported to one of the functional directors. And the whole initiative around this drive that we call iDrive, which is the project name for the digitalization or digital transformation of Indian Oil, is monitored from the highest levels in the organization. And for each of the initiatives that we do, we identify champions and sponsors, which are usually the functional directors or the executive directors. So that takes care of the management side. And there, the importance we all know of management buy-in, because this requires not only investments, it requires business process changes, it requires a whole lot of drive to be there at all levels, especially when you run an organization which has people at all levels, as Mr. Parker has pointed out. Most of the domain knowledge is with people who are about to retire or will be retiring. We structured our journey around certain pillars. One was on high performance analytics. So Pratap pointed out, AI/ML just for the sake of AI/ML is not good. We really need to get down, understand the business processes, understand the domain knowledge, and then build the whole model around a particular use case and derive the benefit out of it. A typical example is a heat exchanger that we operate in our refineries, which is basically required to heat the crude before it is processed. We moved on from a preventive maintenance to a condition-based maintenance, primarily because we run an AI model on the data that is generated online from the exchangers. We took some time in doing it for one of the exchanges. We did it for one, then we did it for the whole trade. Now we are doing it across for all the heat exchangers in this country. So that was where we get down to the nitty-gritties of the AI and ML modules and deploy it, get the benefit out of it. And the kind of industry that we are in, a minuscule percentage of savings on the input cost results in huge amount of savings when it comes to the currency terms. The other areas where we wanted to work on was the cutting edge technology and the new technologies that we bring in. So we talked about getting bots and drones. So today we use robotic crawlers for inspections, we use drones for pipeline inspections, for flare column inspections. We also deployed software bots to take care of our bulk and non application of brain kind of a routine checklist kind of processes. We have deployed software bots here. Other was very important piece was change management. Change management is a tough process anywhere. And in an industry like ours, which is set in its own ways, is really difficult. We have had change management workshops at all levels. And not only workshops, we do ideation workshops where we encourage people to bring in their own ideas, their problems, and we try to solve them, give a digitalized solution to it. And most of the use cases that come out from these ideation workshops are one of the most successful use cases that we ever have had. So those are the principles around which we build our digital transformation journey. It's a really focused drive that we need to have. It cannot be run into, you wake up one fine day and say, no, digitalization is the way to go, let me do it. It doesn't happen that way. You really need a focused approach for it.
So Faraj, you along with your team and Indian Oil team climbed the mammoth of Everest, and still you are climbing. I don't know when you will see the peak of the Everest, but I believe very soon you will see the peak of the Everest. But I can understand the way you thinking about the different pillars. The change management is one approach, how the sponsorship from management is one approach. So those are the aspects definitely when you see a large scale like Indian Oil. So thank you very much to giving you the deep insight of what you did. Now I just wanted to go to Mr. Vivek Gupta from DCM Sriram. Now I just wanted, they also started their digital journey. And similarly, I just wanted to ask that how these are the steps which you follow to success in the digital journey, because we saw many companies are following certain methodology. Definitely DCM Sriram follows certain methodology, but how you made sure that the steps to success to the digital journey?
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. I think an interesting so far. Everybody has shared their experiences. Now, DCM Shriram is at Kota complex. This complex is more than 55 years old. So we have a legacy kind of systems, although the control systems have been updated and upgraded from time to time. But our main thing was just not to put the technology for the sake of technology. The main motto was it should ultimately result in a visible benefit. So to start with the journey, what we did is we formed a cross-functional group. Otherwise, my other panelists will also agree with me. It remains the baby of instrumentation, because something, if you call the word sensor, then even a mechanical electrical process will say this should be owned by the instrumentation department. So first of all, it took time for us to bring that kind of mindset. I would say technology is not the barrier. The barrier for the digital transformation is actually the culture. That culture one has to bring about. So we made a cross-functional team of electrical, process, mechanical, and instrumentation, number one. And number two, we thought of that we should invest time, energy, and money on the real problem statement, not just for the sake of that we are making a dashboard and things will be visible in blue, green, yellow, etc. So the most important part in the process industry like ours is the rotating equipment. Now the legacy equipment, the compressors which are 50 years old. Now during that time, vibration, acoustic, temperature, these were not used to be measured directly and were not available on DCS. So as a first step, what we did, we took a very small step and we selected some 6 assets, some 3 assets in our power plant and 3 assets in our polyvinyl chloride plant. And then the mechanical team was very deeply involved. So the results were quite amazing, because earlier they were doing a kind of a predefined interval monitoring of the vibration, which normally is being done in all the process plants. And once in a shift, they were taking vibration. But what about the remaining hours? So the team came up with a point that let us start measuring vibration and acoustic on all important critical equipment. And we were really not believing that this will give us that kind of benefit, which actually resulted. I would say it didn't stop the vibration, but it stopped the secondary damage, which is really very important, because the DCS data are only centralized to the control room. Even a head of the mechanical, electrical, or process or instrumentation will not get in his office PC. So the first concept was this: let us isolate whatever new measurements we are using with AI sensors and give it on their mobiles, on their laptops. So the right information to the right person at the right time. That was the concept which we took over that. And we found that the mechanical people who used to be after instrumentation people for vibration measurements throughout the shift, they totally were now dependent on this particular tool which we had employed. Those sensors that trains, and even what is the trend in past 10, past 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours, and this AI sensor which got trained in 2 or 3 weeks time, it started giving them the results. So that was because the important point was what to do rather than how to do was more important. Because we have, as my other panelists have also told, a lot of technology is available in the market and making a lot of noise. But ultimately, if it is not giving the visible benefit to the plant, I just tell you a very simple case. What we did actually was, then when these data were available to them, they were able to see which compressor is performing in which way. Like a coal mill in a plant, the shift operation people used to go on a round. Then only he will be able to hear a kind of a noise, and then he will take corrective actions. But now this single sensor, which has got 6 measurements, is actually giving the true reading of the noise, and coal mill damages can be saved. In a similar way, what we have done is a lot of contract people come in every process plant. So we have put a contract labor management system. Now you know about each and every contractor, how many laborers have come inside. So that also gives you a kind of a management which you can do at your work. So you know that this person is now available. Although it's a very small thing, but it has helped us a lot. Similarly, hundreds and thousands of control valves in there in the process industry. This we have installed a smart positioner. Now looking at the environment, which is very corrosive, even in petroleum or in ammonia plant or in PVC plant, the linkages of this positioners through the control valves, they used to get damaged. So now we have linkage-less positioners now with us. So we get the true reading. With the use of that smart positioners, you are getting reading in the DCS, and you know, and it will never fail like that when suppose linkage breaks away. Now there will be a false kind of an indication in the control room about the particular control valve. So this step we started only with few of the control valves which were very critical, but it has, I think, really helped us out. The other important part was just a minute more. The other important part was the management buy-in, which was also talked over here. So we could show them that with this investment, how much we can save, because ultimately the frequent round inside the plant, now that particular operator can utilize his time in some other things rather than simply taking a reading on a paper and then giving it back to the mechanical section. So really, technology, if we use it the right way, helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, so Vivek, you explained the entire technology uses from acoustic to vibration to your wall. So whenever the small possibility where you can see, you utilize that. So that is the classic way. Rather than talk too much, you are more on the action. So it's a good. Now I will go back again to Pratap, because he's also not able to solve my thunder. That on the AI ML now, I just wanted to shift a couple of area. That Pratap, there is a one very buzzword right now we are very commonly using across the industry, which is nothing but a digital twin. So my very plain question, which is still in the evolving stage, and people are many conceptualize or I will say the wrong or right concept. How we should use the digital twin in the manufacturing industry, and does it give a value to a small plant, or it is always to a technology for a big player?
Yes, yes. This whole digital twin, has been, again, it's a buzzword, like you said. It's been used and perhaps overused at places. Essentially, what is a digital twin? I mean, it's just a digital representation of either a physical asset or the behavior of an asset. Any kind of model that will be able to mimic, say, if you're looking at mimicking performance. Okay, so that's one type of model. It could be the physical asset itself, where you have VR type models, virtual reality type models. So without going into the plant and making changes, you're able to sit somewhere else and do the what ifs and so on. So that's essentially what the digital twin is. And in a sense, if you look at it, the sophistication of digital twins have now improved, because there are a lot more. You're able to use a lot more technologies given the computational speeds and everything. If you look at it in a sense, earlier, even 2-3 decades back, people were using simulators and simulation, whether it's at the design stage or even to run operations to facilitate that. Those are also, in a sense, I mean, it is a digital twin of some kind, because the sophistication of digital twins have vastly improved today, and the time you're able to do a lot more things in real time. So certainly there is tremendous value to utilizing a digital twin, as long as you understand, again, how you use it, where you want to use it, before you just go jump and get something which, again, I mean, if there's no use, the whole idea we always kind of espouse with people is, look at what value you could potentially expect to get from it, and then jump into it to build that. So that's my
Yeah, Pratap, you clearly told that the digital twin is the totally idea people are thinking from simulator to today what we are, and still lot many goals. The other potential and tryout company or the industry who can again go in forefront and say that yes, I can do that and try it out is, again, I will go back to the Faraz on the same digital twin thought. So Faraz, I just wanted to ask that how digital twin will help the process industry to achieve the organization goals. Any specific example? Because I know that IOCL is trying always a new technology, which is a forefront technology. So do you have any example where you try to solve the organization goal or achieve any organization goal?
Thanks again. I think Pratap covered most of the points that I would have liked to say when it came to the digital twin part. And yes, at Indian Oil, we have been doing digital twins for quite some time. A recent example was something that we did at a feed processing unit or a feed preparation unit, where we actually convert the new and get it into certain components which are higher values. And these are multiple components. The values of the revenue or the value generated from this component differ as per the market prices and everything. So we created a digital twin of the unit, and earlier the decisions on what to generate, these are very simple parameters. You change two parameters and the product stream does changes a bit. And certain products have higher value, certain products have lower value comparatively. And these decisions to generate the product or get the output product were based on the operator's experience, or or the officer's experience and everything. And then we saw that why not do a digital twin for this particular unit? Created a unit which gave the operator certain estimators to estimate the value, or they could see the value of the product being generated. And once we successfully deployed the estimators and validated against the real life value, we actually gave them optimizers on 3-4 levers. There could be multiple levers, tons of levers to play with. So we identified the top 3 or 4 levers that operators can use to change the revenue stream or the output stream, and we gave them to the operators, and they can actually do a real-time simulation today of by playing with these levers and then apply them to the actual unit. And believe me, this was completely done in-house, and the amount of savings that we have had is relatively very, very high as compared to the effort that we have put in, but just deploying a simple unit of delivery.
So Faraz, with your answer and Pratap's answer, I can say the technology is in the right hand, just a journey is remaining. So there is not many road to go, but technology in the right hand. So I just wanted to shift from digital twin to the very normal word right now. It's very common for all the team member, which is IIoT. Sorry, I will go back to Vivek once again, and I just wanted to ask a very simple question. Why do you the IoT pilots often fail, and to scale it to a further, what is the challenges which you saw? Because I will say not even a fail is the right word, but is that they often come to the certain obstacle and it's very difficult to scale further. Yes, there are few examples where the IoT pilots are successful and scale also, but the percentage is still quite low. So Vivek, can you help me to understand why it is often stuck to the roof and what are the challenges around that?
Yeah, Ajay, I mean, very, good question. Actually, because of this digital world making a lot of noise in the world, every company and actually the top management wants that something should be done in our company also. So actually, the pilots, as we have also said, that it doesn't fail, but the fail in the sense that until unless the pilot gets converted into a scaling up, it just remains a kind of an experiment which is done but not actually put into the use. Now, there are some few reasons why these pilots do not get scaled. Number one is the pilots are done looking at a very short kind of a thing. We are not looking at the benefits at a larger scale. Now, as I was previously speaking, when we started a sensor, just putting on a vibration, very, very simple kind of a thing. But you see, the results were thought of in such a manner that if it gets successful, what should we do it? And I just tell you, we started with 10 sensors, and now across DCM, including our sugar plants and the other locations, we have now touched a figure of 400 numbers. 400 is not a small number. So this project succeeded because the benefits were right from the day one considered that if it is successful, we are going to do this. So number one. So the failure cause is sometimes that the ownership somewhere is lost. Until unless it is seen that who owns the digital journey. And I would say that this cannot be owned by a single department. It has to be owned by a group of people. Number three, in the organizations, the reward and recognition. Actually, the team who is working for digital may not be as successful as the people who are working in the department for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, because their reward and recognitions are seen from a different angle. Here, I may be 5 times I may be failure because I am trying something new which is not readily or available or off the shelf in the market. So sometimes these things fail because the kind of reward and recognition is not given to the digital team who is actually working, because the seed funding is actually required. I would say the assets get depreciated, but the employees get appreciated. So until unless you appreciate your employees in terms of the reward and recognition, the motivation which the people gets lost. The another kind of failure normally in such a thing happens is because if you want to go with this digital journey, you have to have an infrastructure. No DCS has got a kind of a process historian where you can get the data for 3 years or 5 years. So until unless you have that infrastructure, and that infrastructure costs money. Now what happens is AI ML has made so much of buzz in the market that everybody thinks of that we should get something out of that. You can get it, but as Dr. Pratap has initially pointed out, unless you have a data of sufficiently good data of 1 year, 2 years, you cannot train a system to get the results out of that. So that infrastructure cost has somewhere to be built up. You give a digital team a 25% of the fund, which is really required, and you expect 100% results. So that's not possible. So why did we succeed in the sensors? The costs were low, but their benefits were quite visible, and the ROI was simply visible. So now we are actually we have done a kind of a small pilot using the visual analytics. The visual analytics kind of a thing is also now slowly growing up, where by seeing visually through a CCTV camera, I take an example of a coal you are feeding to the boilers. Above a particular size, it will disturb the combustion. So we are actually working with a vendor. How do we utilize a simple camera, but even algorithms which is written as software? So these are the kinds of things which really help us. But again, the most important part is people cannot be forgotten. They have to be taken a look. The skilling, reskilling has to be definitely done, because they may not be knowing DCS and IoT sensors, but that the energy of the younger people and the knowledge and the experience of the people who are older, if these two are, I mean, synchronized, the results can be phenomenal.
Pratap, you open one more topic for our next debate, that asset can be depreciated, but people should be appreciated. At the same time, there should be some value when it goes to the knowledge of the older people and the energy of the new generation. If it marries, then we can do wonders around that. So thank you very much for your assessment on that. Now I just wanted to move to Mr. Parthasur, because he is also old timer in this industry, and the technology which is relevant to the chemicals and the petrochemical industry, in the which technology which you believe which is the fast ROI or the relevant to the current industry, rather than experiment all along on the digital way, which are the digital technology which you believe is relevant to all of us, specifically chemical and the petrochemical industry?
Yeah, that the very first instance I talked about the basic framework that we have built. The database is now at hand. Now, what is the post-pandemic? It we gave us another kind of dimension, that the remote collaboration and remote monitoring is another aspect where it is fundamental, that we have moved into from basic historization data from a server based to a cloud. That's the first thing that we did. Secondly, now now is the hybrid work environment, and digital technology is making a unique advantage to every organization. So we are also part of this journey, in a sense that our group is supported by technology, the digital technology. We have a group company has a digital arm of TCG Digital, and now the TCG Digital has formed a joint venture with Lamas. So we are gearing towards that next level of digital attainment, where we'll be moving into the next level. I mean, it's an offline AI-based RTO. So the basic database is available. Now we have softwares. We have a process simulation softwares. We have the licenses, basic, the support. So we'll be gradually moving into that area where it's the outcome of this venture will be on a collaborative platform, is a remote monitoring. So this will add to on day-to-day real-time value addition, plus what we are doing today, and also the remote monitoring, and in a sense that will be moving towards individual assets. And this the asset to the there's a local plant-wise optimization, then to the global optimization. That is the kind of the visibility we are going to bring in going forward, and we are gradually building up on that footprint. Now,
So,
this not be very easy. So for that we need right kind of people who are required to be trained. That we have started a group of bunch of people that we have already trained. Okay, so they are given a hands-on experience to work on specific use cases. So in a sense that will be building lot many use cases in a small segment, so that the idea of digitalization and digital transformation pervades across the organization in different sectors, be it your transportation, your finance, safety, okay, operations, plant monitoring. So the idea is from diagnostic to descriptive, then the predictive, prescriptive, predictive, and adaptive. So we want to this scale from higher level to lower. So how we move from these diagnostic, descriptive, prescriptive, predictive to the adaptive. So that is the kind of goal we are going to inculcate, and that we are on that journey. So where the basic backbone, the basic software that will be helping us, basically TCC MQ, it has all the foundational features built in it. They are basically built over the years from the open source softwares. As Mr. Parak said, I heard, the what if kind of analysis can also be done. Okay, the optimization, whether it is optimization, so I can get any kind of, create any kind of query and get answers to it. Is it really going to, which will used to be taken maybe a week time, now we should be in a position to do it within a 2-3 hours time. That is the kind of domain we are going to move into in future.
So, Mr. Partha, very good that you gave the idea that where you wanted to go and what is the relevant for you. So before I close that, the last 5 minutes, and there's a quick question. So I will start with Atul. And my very basic question to Atul, because they are the pioneer onto the digital journey into the chemical industry. So how the leaders of chemical industry digitization can help peers is doing same. So you need not be, you are the front runner, what you are going to help, how your peers is going to run.
Can you help me build my thoughts around what's the question? You want me to explain how my
how you are going to help your peers?
Okay, so I think before I think the question here is that first of all, as tech leaders, sometimes we get subsumed in the terminology and in the technology aspects, which is of least interest to business users. Okay, for them, if you talk about IoT, industrial IoT, AI, ML, all of this is actually at 30,000 feet. What they want to know is how are we together, not a tech team alone. How are we together being able to address a specific business problem? It could be around optimizing logistics. It could be around reducing labor cost, reducing scrappage or wastage, or maximizing throughput, or lowering energy consumption, so to say. It has to be theme specific. So how is a specific piece of technology addressing that particular theme or that requirement? So that's the important thing. And as tech leaders, we also have to understand and communicate in their language. Because otherwise, if we start talking about this is the this is the lines of code we have to do, this is the cybersecurity aspects which we have to cover, this is how we have to create dashboards, we use Python, this, that, and everything. It is of no consequence. So we have to get into their shoes and then talk about topics like how is this piece of technology create higher visibility in their operations, so that you have a safer, error-free operation. You have get first time right in terms of quality assurance, quality controls. How are you able to improve asset utilization? Sometimes I know of plants, and wherein specifically in some of our continuous process plants, we have no set of pumps which are in standby. So if using technologies like IoT and connected systems, you can then have a charter that how many hours this pump should run, how many hours the other pump should run, or any other standby equipment should run, so that you optimally load these machines and maximize their efficiency. Then how do we have visibility of the FG inventory, the raw material inventory, and then maybe work in progress also, so that you can then reduce your inventory holding cost to the optimal. Having said all of that, I think important is that it could be data from either from control systems, or it could be process monitoring, or even personnel monitoring. I think today there are so much and plethora of options, and I can tell you, in during the peak of COVID, even the hardest or the toughest individuals, in terms of those who were banking on their experience all these years, they have actually softened their stand, and they have become more accommodative and in adopting and harnessing technology. And because they found it that you can't operate actually otherwise. There was no option to survive and to continue operation. So I think COVID has been a great leveler, and those who thought that their experience, their gut, and their intuit would rule forever, they've got a very tough shocker, I would say, and they've kind of reconciled that for us to be relevant in these current times and periods, we have to adopt technology. Of course, we can't say that we have fully digitally transformed. We are in a journey, but we have made great steps, and we continue to do so. And with of course continual and deep engagement with our operations and peer teams. One last point I want to highlight here is, while we have engaged, we have also pointed out that we are not here to automate tasks and make people redundant. We have also made sure that when we adopt technologies, we encourage the partner and the OEMs to have workshops to facilitate creating those necessary skills to be able to adopt and be appreciative of the implementation. Otherwise, if people start feeling challenged and feel threatened that this piece of technology can actually make them redundant or make their positions redundant, so then they would kind of either explicitly or otherwise try to desist or be least participative in such projects. So that's how we it's not just about technology, it's also about making sure that we handle the change management aspects as subtly as possible to make things happen and be sustainable on those accounts.
Yeah, thanks, Atul. Thanks. That shows that why you people are leader into the digital journey. Your thought process and the way you are handling, undoubtedly great. So for our last quick 10 seconds, what next in digital journey? The same question will go to Pratap and same question will go to you. What next in quick 10 seconds?
I would say next is you transform existing businesses and power new ways of doing businesses. Change the game itself by using digitalization. Change the revenue model that you have. For us, retail, we could look at more of NFRs, LPG, modified supply chain. Petchem is a huge opportunity when it comes to digitalization. That's next.
So Pratap, over to you. What next in digital journey?
Yeah, I agree with Faraz. Really, it's the transformation of the organization, the way of thinking, because the technology today is really not the limiter. How we are thinking of using it and transforming the way we use it, instead of just having it automate inefficiencies. You want to take it to a step above. So that's really the key challenge, I think, that we all need to be working towards.
Okay. So I just wanted to thank the entire team who were present today. Atul, Partha, Vivek, Faraz, Pratap, all of you. What a beautiful insight and different views which I can see from digital twin, IoT platform, POCs, Partha's definition about what next he's thinking about that. Then Atul's thought about how they are going to make a leader and how they are going to pull to the entire industry. Vivek's example that the assets can be depreciated, but the people should get appreciated. All those thoughts, they are really insightful. And I just wanted to thank you, all of you, and wish you all the best for the digital journey, because you are the people, the entire digital journey or digital technology flagship hold barrier or holder. So we just wanted to see you in what next. So I just wanted to transfer our entire session to Satyam or Rahul, who is our organizer. If any specific question from audience, or I'm good to go.